Hello, and welcome back to Talking About Cross Stitch with me. I'm Karen, I'm the Stitching Owl, coming to you from London, Ontario. I believe it is June the 29th, and we are in 2025. We have almost finished half of this year already, and June seems to have been a particularly fast month. Just want to say thank you to each of you who have subscribed, commented, and are indeed giving me something so precious, your time. It is truly a gift to me that you watch and comment. And for those of you who are new, I hope you'll stick around for a little while and see if my flavor of projects and ways of presenting is up your alley. And if so, I would love to welcome you to my little corner of the YouTube and Flosstube. I want to say that school is officially out in Ontario, and I know that this is far behind some of you in the States. But yes, the children went to school until this past Thursday, and then there is actually, for some of the teachers, they have to go back in and do a bit of cleanup on Monday. Yes, there was a PD day, but when you have lent out Chromebooks and things, I think a lot of people just think the teachers are free and clear, and there's different things that have to be done at the schools. So I am saying to you, the teachers, thank you. Your profession is often not given the appropriate amount of accolades that I feel it should be. The school situation where you have so many children at the same time, to have you work with these children and help them to become the best that they can be, thank you. For without you, there would be no future. Congratulations to all of the graduates who are looking forward to new beginnings, both in the summer and in the fall. Whether you're graduating from high school or university or college, newness is around the corner, and it can be both exciting and terrifying at the same time. I wish you well and ask that you just reach out to anybody in your neighborhood should you need a bit of encouragement, because sometimes a smile and a hug is all you need in order to know that, yes, you are ready for that next step. Now, let's talk about the weather. So I have been doing the specialty stitch chart of Stitchin Mommy. We all know her as Sarah on Flosstube. And I can honestly say that, yes, the month of June has been warm. We somewhat had a March end of winter extended for 2 months, had maybe 2 days of spring, and got slammed right into summer. And for those of you who are curious, yes, we have humidity too. So sometimes it's a wall out there, and that's why people choose to walk, not run, and perhaps go out at 6 a.m. instead of later in the day. Now, my stitching is caught up to yesterday. It has been the rice stitch here, and I'm just going to take a moment to apologize for being croaky and squeaky. The allergies are high, and sometimes it is my voice that is the first thing that goes before I end up with the sneezing and the itchy eyes. So you can see cold, cold, a little bit of a mix, a little bit of bouncing around, and we got too hot. Now, this first day was 13 degrees Celsius, but most of the month was around 25, and we got up to 31. So I have today and tomorrow, and then I will cordon off this area, and then I'll learn about the next specialty stitch. To be honest, this is one of my favorites. Let's see if I can put it up close. There you go. Isn't that pretty? So these are your hearts from May. And this is your June rice stitch. And it was so easy, and amazingly enough, it still is not using an awful lot of thread. Just to remind you, I am using one strand of Sulky 12 weight on a 32 count vintage country mocha, but I'm using the plain side, not the modeled side. And I have created my own set of colors with one color per degree from minus 24, 25 up to like 32 degrees. Once we hit 32, they're all going to be that really hot color because it just feels like a wall. Now, send a smile. I am ever so pleased to say, hooray, we had success. I ended up using UPS, which I found to be actually fairly economical, to be honest, and I successfully sent the 3 models to Kenzie of Mudpuppy Stitchery. They arrived and she is happy, and I hope you will check out her floss tubes. And while I was at UPS, I sent a smile to Andrew, the runner stitcher. Last December, when I was doing Flossmas, I was doing an advent banner that was a daily stitch by the Tiny Modernist. And one of the people that had continually been commenting on how lovely those little motifs were was Andrew. So I knew I would only stitch it once, and I happened to have purchased 2 pieces of specially dyed fabric. And so I sent that off. Andrew, I'm going to apologize. I didn't take the time to put those in order. So you're going to have to sort of go through and see what your order is. Maybe if you hand it to that handsome partner of yours, he can put them in order for you so you don't spoil this somewhat surprise when you get to doing it. So I'm so glad that that worked, and I know now that it is actually quite easy to use UPS to send to the United States. Canada Swaps 3, all of the participants have been collected and notices have been sent out. I had one that I was just waiting for an address that I had saved a spot for. So when I am finished with this video, I will send out that connection. And at this point, then it will be closed. I won't be accepting more people into Canada Swaps 3. Our goal for stitching is to stitch the season, not seasonal, season of winter, spring, summer, or fall, as is stated as a favorite by the person we're sending it to, and to have it in the mail sometime either around or before the Labor Day weekend at the beginning of September. Now for Canada Chats, we did meet on June 22nd at 2 o'clock Eastern Time. It was a small group, but it was lovely to get together. I do know that as the weather is warmer and there's more people just vacationing and trying to keep the children happy outside, the groups will be small. Now, we decided we would still keep going through the summer. My game was just about what whip you had brought to stitch during our chat, and the winner for the second time was Lisa. I do think that her point total was helped when I said, and 1 point for every whip that you have. Her eyes raised and she was like, really? And I'm like, yep, go for it. Well, she had over 100. So there you go. And she will be sent her gift certificate number tomorrow. The dates for the summer chats are July 20th and August 17th at 2. These are Sunday afternoons. I am also putting September on a middle of the month so that people who are away with family on the long weekend at the beginning of the month don't miss. So September 14th is the Canada Chats, and then we will go to the beginning of the month again. So I've just been trying to work around the different stat holidays that the countries might have. And I admit that there are probably some countries that I'm landing on a stat holiday because I don't know the entire world. Just a gentle reminder that I sometimes refer to friends that I stitch often with online. And I will just use their first name. So right here, I'll just give you their Flosstubes, and I will link them below in the description box. So we have Lisa of Forest City Stitching, Laura Stitching by the Shore, Mary of Mary's Stitching Corner, Kim, Contented Needleworker Kim, Amy, Renewing Stitches, I do hope you moved this week, Melanie and Michael of Uplift Stitches, Katie is of course Jeremiah's mom, Lee of Sticks, Strings and Other Things, Charlie, Stitching with Charlie, and Karen D, the Twitchy Stitcher. Now, I neglected to put these things in order over here. So I had been doing Mudpuppy Mania in order to get 3 models done for Kenzie of Mudpuppy Stitchery. And I'm continuing my Mudpuppy, wow, this is going to be a tough day for speaking, isn't it? My Mudpuppy focus through July and August. I have 2 more of hers on the go. Gold Among the Flowers. I am stitching on a Roxy Floss Co. 40 count for doll with the name of Sea Breeze. The pattern is 91 by 121 and uses 10 colors of floss. I am using full cross stitch and 1 strand. I have made solid progress here. Look at this. So last time we had this area in. So now you can see that there's a second bird I've got the tail of. I don't quite have the tail finished here. 1 stem and leaf. I'm just going to pop it in. So my 1 strand on 40 for doll is going very nicely for coverage. The white stays a true white. It is B5200. This is 1,834 stitches completed, which is a 39.26%. Now I used this E for the anagram suites in the magazine A Monthly Challenge because Kenzie's patterns can be purchased on Etsy. Now, the other one that I am doing is called Strawberries and Swallow-Tailed Kites. This pattern is 146 by 187, as is in the Raptor series. There are 17 colors. I just want to comment that the last time I was making a floss tube, I said there was 22,000 stitches. And that was an error. When I put it into Pattern Keeper, if the file that is sent has both the color and the black and white file on this in the same file rather than sent as separate files, the 2 of them go into Pattern Keeper. And while we can certainly say omit page 3, I did that, and this time it didn't omit it. So that meant everything went in double. So 22,000 was double the amount. It is really 11,028 stitches in total. Now, I am stitching on a 36 count even weave. Kenzie's model, no, I guess it's not the model, it's the mock-up. It is shown on a straight pink, and I didn't have a pink that I was happy with. So here I've got a modeled hand dyed by Rolanda, and you can see that I got the butterfly in, the stem, and then I really wanted to get to the bird. So call me crazy, but I'm enjoying stitching white. Now this is one strand of the DMC floss. I wanted to also get in this tail here because this indeed has a swallow tail. Whoever named this bird certainly knew what they were talking about. So I definitely have more wing, more body and wing to go. So there's a fair amount more to go, but at least now I've got the head in so you can see we have a bird that does look like a raptor. Now, I have stitched 3,130 stitches, which is 28%. And for the June Magazine Monthly Challenge, this is the S of sweets because it's strawberries and swallowtails. So I have to say, I tend to stitch fairly quickly when I'm doing one strand on 36. So I do think that I should be able to have both of these done by the end of summer. I do not think I will have both of them done for the end of July though. Now I just want to give a shout out right now to somebody who's not a new Flosstuber and who you've heard me mention before. It is Allison of Mrs. AZ Family Zoo. Now, she's got a wonderful channel, and I've talked previously about the fabulous multi-crafter that she is. Allison and her husband give permanent refuge to many animals that have health challenges. Recently, she had to say goodbye to one of her tortoises. It was Mikey. Allison has an Etsy shop that has patterns that are smalls, project bags, and other things like jewelry that she sells, and the profit here goes to the quite expensive fees that go with taking care of so many animals. They do not take shortcuts with their vet bills. They are not a charity. So I'm just going to encourage you to take a peek at her site. And I know she had a sale on in June. I don't know if you'll have a chance to grab that sale, but I hope you'll go look anywhere, even if the sale is no longer on, because her prices are very reasonable. Okay, fully finished objects. Now, Charlie, who I mentioned earlier, has created hashtag JustFinishedJuneJuly. What she's trying to encourage us to do is to look through our stack of whips and see if we have things that we can finish or fully finish over these 2 months. Most of us have multiple whips, and sometimes when we pull them out, we're surprised to discover there's less than 500 stitches left. Or we look under our bed and we discover there's 25 things just waiting to be fully finished. So she is encouraging us to do that with the hashtag JustFinishedJuneJuly. Now, on Instagram, the Two Tall Stitchers have a hashtag FFO Challenge 2025. So this is the 3rd year, and when you post pictures of something that is fully finished and you put that hashtag on, they love it if you tag them so that they can see everything. Instagram's not quite as easy to use as it once was. But those are 2 things that you can do to help to broadcast that you're finishing and fully finishing your items. Now, let's see where we are. So number 1 is Camel, my chameleon, and you can see he sits. Now, I'm contemplating going into my button box and finding some buttons just for down here. but I just thought this was absolutely adorable. This is on the front cover of the Summer Just Cross Stitch magazine. And of course you can name it whatever you'd like. My husband wants me to name him Camel. So I stitched this on a 20 count Ada that was a gift. The Chameleon is in the recommended colors. Other things are played around with. So that is my fully finished number 1. Number 2, Bees and Honey by the Tiny Modernist. And I can tell that I forgot to bring down my Whip Go sheet. So this was one of my Whip Goes, and I fully finished it. And yes, you can see that I had fun with my beading. So I did this on this is a random piece of ornament cut that I got at the sewing shop at Stitch North. It feels around a 36, so I could do this with one strand. It's mostly called for colors. Some political license was taken with the flowers, so that like this one was supposed to be even paler, and I was like, nah, I'm gonna make it show up just a little bit more. So the Bees and Honey leaflet has a number of really cute small patterns that don't take long if you're in the need of a small. Now, also in ornament finishes, I have a friend at Stitch It Central by the name of Mary who has given me a number of Prairie Schooler Santas. And this past week, I finished this guy with the snowman. I don't know specifically which leaflet number these are. She wanted something just very simple that showed the stitch without a lot of extraneous beading. And actually, I do agree that Prairie Schooler does tend to shout for simplicity and less sparkle. And then the other one that I did for her, I love this one. It's a sheep. And then, of course, a lamb up here. And on the back of these, I've just got a dark green paisley that is a leftover from one of my mother's quilting adventures. What else have I done with fully finished? Well, this is a start, stitch, finish, fully finish. I do like to take part in Laura's ATC swap. And did I bring it down? No. It is with my Whip Go. So this is Swans on the Water. It's stitched on 20 count Ada. This is a section of a Kyoko Maruoka book called Happy Days that I purchased on Amazon. And for the magazine monthly, Swans is the second S in Sweets. And I think I've got a bit of trimming to do on that edge. I am not as inventive with how I fully finish these. I know I get inspiration from the beautiful videos Laura makes, but then I don't have the supplies here because I wasn't really into paper crafting in my previous life. So, but is there anything else I wrote on the back? That the theme for the ATC was air and water. Birds fly in the air, breathe air, and swans swim in the water. And my last fully finished item, Kim, I finally did it. I started measuring the many frames that I have. And I realize that you can look at these and go, oh, that's an 8 by 10 or that's a 5 by 7. When my father did my framing for me, it was such a blessing, because if I said 8 by 10 opening, the opening was 8 by 10 and he made sure it was. When you purchase an 8 by 10 frame, it doesn't matter from where. That doesn't mean the opening truly is that, because they often have a lip, and that lip actually cuts into things. And so your 8 by 10 can be a 1/4 of an inch shorter all around. I've had one that was a 1/2 inch smaller all around. And that certainly affects what you're going to put into it. So, my finish for today is this guy. Now, you will remember that many of us were doing the Songbirds series from Cottage Garden Sampling. This is actually Faith number 7. But you can see that if you know these, it's not identical to the pattern. These patterns were square, had words, had a house. I edited, I changed the shape of some of the leaves. I added a ladybug for just a hint of humor. But I thought that these looked a little bit like leaves and foliage, so that worked. Now this is a heavy frame. I have put this in Kim's way, in that if I decide I want to use something else in here, it's easy for me to take it out and put something else in. So now that one will be standing on a shelf. It isn't meant to be hung up. Although I suppose I could actually rig something quite easily as well. So I'm super pleased with getting that many, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fully finished items. Thank you, Charlie. And Kim, you were the inspiration for me, saying I've got to use those frames. Now, I just want to do a shout out. Ange and Mel's Adventures in Threads. They have one video at this point that I watched. There could be more now. Some of these I literally find an hour after I am doing my last video. And so sometimes in the following 2 weeks, more videos are put up. So I know there's at least one. These friends do not live anywhere close to each other. They're in completely different states. But they, of course, with technology, it's easy to use split screens to be able to enjoy their camaraderie and their projects. They are multi-clafters. It does include quilting. And like Kim and I, they love to change things up in the patterns. So I'm sure I will enjoy their future videos. Now we go to finished objects. I can't remember if I showed you this guy the last time. I think I needed to put in one more peacock. So this is Owl Forest Embroidery Patchwork Calendar, stitched with one variegated thread as part of Monochrome Monday. And it's on a 25 count even weave. So this type of monochromatic stitch on something that's easy to see, because I find 25 count easy to see, is great to stick in your purse. Because you never know when you're going to end up waiting for 2 or 3 hours while procedures are being done, and you need to stay on hand. So I find them very, very handy to have. Now, I also finished Halloween Cap by Snowflower Diaries. Now, this is part of a larger Halloween sampler that's found on Etsy. And what happens is, I think there's 4 rows, so I purchased, I think this is the 4th row. And you get 4 or 5 patterns per row. So I've got more stitching that I can do. I did edit out a few things that were sort of floating in the air, so that it's just focused is really about the pumpkin. And this is again on one of the ornament cuts of the sewing shop. Is there anything else? 2 strands of random cotton. Sometimes when I'm doing my small ornaments, I got a huge bag of just random pieces of different kinds of cotton floss, and I'm not going to use them when I am trying to do subtle shading, but when I've got something like this, I can just sort of pick things out and have a go. Now, I also have been stitching on Stitching Parliament Threads by Hands On Design. This pattern was acquired at the Superb Owl one-day retreat in 2024 on the Super Bowl Sunday. Now, this was run by Lindy Stitches, and they do have another one coming up in just a few weeks. I hope to see a number of you there. Now, this single owl is 50 by 50, 50 by 60, because the pattern includes a twig and his name threads underneath, but I decided I wasn't going to do that, so mine is 50 by 50. But look at that. I love those eyes. Oh my goodness. And the feathers in his wing. And of course he's called Threads because he's got a thread in his beak. Now again, this is a random piece of fabric that is an ornament cut. You're going to hear that a lot for these ornaments. It is 2 strands of DMC. I'm fairly certain this is 14 or 16. I'm thinking 14, but I don't know. I didn't stop to truly measure. And this was the W of Sweets because this was part of my Whip Go. So Sweets is the anagram for the Magazine Monthly Club. So there's a couple more finishes, and I have one more Boo Spook Haunt by Hello from Liz Matthews. This pattern is 155 by 68 if you do everything in the pattern, and as per usual, I did not. Now, it is a total of 5,146 stitches, and it moves along quickly because there's a fair amount of block-like stitching for you to do. I stitched this on a 20 count Aida that I thought was really nicely moody. You can see I did end up choosing to put the words in along the top. There are some more spiders along the way that ended up being put in. The spider webs on the edge I decided against because I wasn't putting in the border. I'm going to try to make this into an oval drum. Now I've had a couple people say, what are these smudges? So if you look at this one, there you go. You can almost see that they look like little quilt blocks. They're almost as if these ghosts have a sheet with a few quilt blocks on the corner. So this was part of the Halfway to Halloween hashtag started by Jason X Stitch. Now, Jason is also doing a round robin, and I believe the cutoff is the 30th of June if you want to participate. He's got, 8, 9, possibly more now, groups going, and I've just looked at my summer and I really wanted to take part, but I think it would be wisest of me to step back and say, I'm going to do my list and to go from there. But I do encourage you, it sounds like an incredible amount of fun. Now, I've got another shout out, mainly X-Stitch. Rachel from Maine has started videoing a couple of months ago and already has 8 videos, possibly more, available. She's a maker and seller of needle minders. She likes a variety of projects from something very small to a large full coverage. And like me, she does love digital patterns. Now with WhipGo, so far I am keeping up with WhipGo, though it helps that my goal is to simply start 2 new ornaments each month. And in each box, I have listed a designer, not a specific project, because that gives me opportunity to decide what I feel like doing. Having said this, Jessie Marie Does Stuff is the one that has spearheaded this and created it. And she has said, it's your board, your rules. And I ended up changing the designer. Now, why did I do this? I had pulled Nenny Design as my second, and I am still going to do the Bee Gnome. It is adorable, but I think I'm going to save that for Be Your Own Valentine in February, along with Carla Being Crafty. Oops, got to write her down. Carla Being Crafty. Laura had shown on one of her videos in May that she had purchased a pattern from a designer I'd never heard of called Fine Frog Stitching. Now, she has a paper pattern, and what we discovered was that on June the 24th, the paper pattern was going to be released as a PDF on the website. So Laura, Mary, and I started the Strawberry Goose Witch. Now, my friends are going to think I'm crazy. Yep, call me crazy. I decided I was going to do this in such a way that it was typical of the size that I make ornaments, which is relatively small. So the design is 74 by 106, and it does have 22 DMC colors. I am using a 22, and you can see a little bit of the glint. It's metallic blue. Now, call me crazy. I have had a hard time stitching on blue, particularly deep blue, and this is 25 count. So I wasn't sure I was going to be able to do it. And if not, then I was just going to say, hey, Deb, do you want some 25 count? But for some strange reason, I have been able to see this one. Now, I did a center start. So this is the neck. Up here is going to be the beak and the head, witch hat, wings. Now, I'm just going to show you something. I'll do it this way. I can pretty much cover that up with my thumb. This is a small 25 count. So, did I write down? I didn't write down how many stitches this was. I know it's over 300 because I don't like showing something under 300 because you can't guess what it is. And even here you can't guess. You can see that the goose has a bow around its neck, and that this is going to be the collar of its outfit. Now, I'm using one strand of DMC, and this pattern does pop into Pattern Keeper with ease, even if you've done that wacky update. So I'm having fun with this. Now, the numbers called for July give me the patterns by Luminous Fiber Arts and Crocetta Agogo. I have not planned those stitches yet. I will look on July 1st and see what I feel like doing. Now, I'm going to give another shout out to Amanda the Stitching Panda. I think she likes alliteration. I found one video, and it was a whip parade as a way of introduction. She is a full coverage lover, and like Laura, she likes 18 count, but she does do some 20 count as well. Never fear, there is non-full coverage as well, so there's something for everyone's taste. I hope you'll give her a watch. Now, at this point, as mentioned, we are almost to the end of June. So I thought I would give my 6-month update. I'm not doing a whip parade, but I am going to do a little bit of a summary, and I'm just going to assume that this is like the evening of the 30th and use those numbers. Yep. So January to June, I have had 51 projects listed as whips, with only 2 of them not touched. So that means I have touched 49 projects this year. Now, I keep these things straight by using the cross-stitch planner of Lori. She's My Crazy Life. I particularly like that you get boxes big enough to write what you've stitched on that day when you have multiple stitches the way I do. And then between the months, instead of just putting the months of the year back to back, there are pages with lines on it to write on for the challenges that you're taking part in, and for the stitch-alongs, start-alongs. So I really like that. At the end of the book, there's retreat sheets. There is a lovely amount of whip recording. So last year we had 2 pages of whips, which gave us 50. And Lori had some suggestions that perhaps we needed more. And I'm glad, because I'm already to 51. I turned the page and I can get to 100 whips this year. We'll see if that happens. So just a reminder, My Crazy Life, her planners are available from Evertote here in Canada, and I would check out her YouTube channel and she'll let you know where you can get them in the United States. So out of those 51 projects, starts 39. And there will be more. I've already got some planned for this week. Fully finished objects. I have fully finished 20 of my own projects so far this year. In some cases, a pattern had multiple stitches, where I did 3, one time even 4 for the same pattern. And you see with my Owl Forest embroidery that I counted it as 1 project, but I'm doing 12 finishes. So my numbers are actually higher than what my notes say. Now, I have also FFO'd 4 projects for my daughter, 5 projects for my friend Darlene, and 3 projects for my friend Mary. So that means I've fully finished more than 30 items so far this year. And I think I'm okay with how much I've done. I do want to do more use of the frames, so that what I've done is I have left them out and they look like a mess on my dining room table. But if I put them away, I won't think about them. So I started today. Hopefully tomorrow I will do another one. Amount of stitches achieved. Well, in January through June, January had my least amount of stitches with 35,741. And May had my highest amount with 41,907. My 6-month total so far is 235,733 stitches. Okay, wow. I'm looking at that number going, that's a lot of stitches. I felt like I was stitching slowly this month, but in June I have made it to 40,000 as well. So I seem to be getting things done, and I'm having fun, and I'm doing it without causing any pain in my wrist and fingers. If that happens, I will have to back off. I don't know if you watched one of the latest Evertote notes from the workshop where Caroline had her friend Ellen with her. And Ellen is a wonderful musician, part of Crash Test Dummies, but she's a marvelous designer of cross stitch, and she typically stitches her own models. And she's a voracious stitcher, and she stitched so much that she ended up in a splint and having to not stitch for a while. So she was just cautioning us, if it hurts, stop and do something else. Yes, and she, Ellen is maximum power hour. But her video really was with Caroline on the Evertote. Shout out for Natalie Stitching Studio. She has the first video out and is from Quebec. And I so love the fact that she jumped in to join us for the Canada Swaps 3. Natalie is a multi-crafter, and listen to this list: cross stitch, sewing, quilting, knitting, slow stitch. There is something for everyone, and she might even inspire you to branch out into other crafting. Her aim is to show us one video per month, so you have time to see her June video, and then we will look forward to her July. And that brings us to works in progress. Now you know that I usually start my works in progress with the patchwork calendar, because as soon as I have one done, I go on to another one. And the one I'm doing this time is squirrels. Now, according to this book, squirrels come in winter. Well, squirrels are in my backyard all year round. Now, I am using Milk Chocolate by Roxy Flossco. And, oh, I did not finish my thread. This is an unusual moment for me. So I started in the center clearly and have no squirrels here yet. But I do have acorns and oak leaves. So this guy will go along with me whenever I'm in the car. I'm using one strand of variegated floss on the 25 count even weave as mentioned earlier. Heron at Dawn. Is by Pigeon Coop Designs, and I am stitching this with many of my friends who are already finished. Connie, Laura, Mary, Melanie, and Melanie, I can't wait to see your next Flosstube, because I noticed that you have been traveling again, and that usually means a stop at a needle workshop or two. So for my Heron at Dawn, I am using a 40 count for doll hand dyed by Rolanda that is not named. You can see that I finished the upper wing and I've got almost all of the lower wing and just some reeds and water down here. Now, if I hold it like this, you can see a little scallopy shape, which would be shape of scallops for Laura's I Spy challenge. I know I'm stretching it. I was going to stretch it even farther and say he's standing in water with scallops under the sea, but you said scallop shape, not scallops, so I thought maybe that was taking it a little too far. Now, this is one of the more complex pigeon coop designs. You are changing colors more frequently and the counting is a little bit trickier, especially on 40 count, that's tight. Now, having said that, this is a beautiful chart and worth every minute, and it works well on Ada because there's no partial stitches. I have done 2,823 stitches, which is 88.5%. So I'm definitely closing in on a finish. So Charlie, the plan is sometime in July, this guy will get done. Now I have another pigeon coop design going where I started it with Mary, Laura, Connie, Charlie, and Lee, and I'm not sure, I can't remember whether Melanie did it or not. So this is a relaxing stitch. It has not got excessive color changes. Yes, there's enough counting and pretty patterns to keep it interesting, but there is only 6 colors of DMC. It will end up being fully round. Boreal Bounty is what it's named, 79 by 79. This is a 20 count Ada that was gifted to me. I have 1,944 stitches, so I'm already at 48.39%, which means this is almost half done already. Putting in one more tree would get me to the halfway point. And I didn't start it that long ago. So clearly this is a quicker stitch than the Heron, but so much fun, and it's a real palette cleanser after doing something that is full of confetti stitching. Going Coastal. Is by Love Poppet Designs. Now, I started this with Sally of Flossie Sews and Grows for the hashtag Best of British Sal, as well as to celebrate that warm weather finally got here in Ontario. It is 85 by 85, but is circular, therefore you're not using the faux grid. 13 colors, and I think the last time I had the bottom 2 and a little bit in, so I've got more of the waves going. This is also a 40 count. It's a very light blue. Not sure you can see the true color of it on the video. Love Poppet patterns go into Pattern Keeper really easily, and there is enough stitching on a strand that you can finish a strand. And it's in such a way that if you use a paper pattern, it works beautifully. Sally will tell you that. I happen to like being in Pattern Keeper. I will have a confession later. So I'm really having fun with this, and it is going along quickly. I foresee more Love Poppet designs in my future. So that's 1,260 stitches for 38%. Now we are to Flossabilities, Cabin in the Woods. This is something that I started, well, first of all, it was inspired by Stitchy Sally, who started this for her birthday and has already finished it. It looks fabulous. I hope you'll check her out. I am stitching with Mary, and I noticed that Sally Flossie Sews and Grows has started it again. Not again, she's started it. There are 14 DMC colors that I use on 20 count charcoal Aida. I do appreciate how distinctive the designs of Flossabilities are. The tree shapes, the choice of colors, distinctly them. These trees are just so much fun to do. I need to put in more stars in the upper part. I have more ground to put in here, and then I will decide how much more of this I'm going to do, because I think I'm going to be making this into an oval drum as well. Now, at this point, I have stitched 5,177 stitches, which is 57.6% of the pattern as a totality. I haven't blacked anything out yet. What I want to do is to get this bottom part in and the stars, and then use my editing eye to say, and how much more is needed. Now, we also started Shack on the Shore. Last video, I was telling you that some of the people had commented that they had updated their pattern keeper and then had problems with the colors of their heids. Well, I have tried to put Shack on the Shore in 6 times, and the colors are messed up every single time. Now, when I say messed up, there is more symbols than are actually in the chart on the side. And then, for instance, if one of them is a fish, well, you don't get that symbol once. I got it 8 times. So when you click on the fish symbol on the pattern, it shows you some of the fish, but you don't get a full path because it adds up 8 different fish symbols to get the total number that the fish is. So here's my confession. I need to be in a back room or basement of a church at Pattern Keepers Anonymous because I am completely addicted. I have found this hard to do without having a working pattern keeper. And I have actually contemplated getting Markup RXP just for those patterns that have this problem. Now, I know that I've had another update from Pattern Keeper. It did not help. I had a backdoor method of using a previous iteration of Pattern Keeper. It did not help. So I'm going to give them a couple more weeks to see whether they get this figured out. And if not, yep. So how far have I gotten? I have gotten to this point. Is that not a very cute sun? Now this is a 20 count Aida cornflower. I'm using 1 strand of DMC. That of course is the shack. So this is a companion to the cabin, but whereas the cabin had like 14 colors, This guy has 25. I have completed 769 stitches. I still can count my stitches. It just takes 8 swipes to get all of the stitches done, and then you discover you've missed something. And it's 9.64% of the totality. Because this is a companion to the cabin, however I decide to edit the cabin, I will likely edit Shack as well. And Rainbow Dragon. This is an AI pattern by Artisy. I'm stitching this for a friend's grandson and in support of Andrew the Runner Stitcher's hashtag Whip Into Shape, where we stitch as he trains for the Australian Marathon. So exciting to get into the Australian Marathon. It is a trip of a lifetime, Andrew. I'm so happy for you. Now this is Mini Dragon 3 and is 133 by 200 stitches. So I don't actually consider this a very large pattern, even though it's stitch intense. It's stitch intense because there's mostly confetti because it's AI. So Andrew does have a chart that you can check out on his Flosstube of how many miles he's running, and you can figure out whether you're doing it times 10, times the amount of time. I am trying to do 200 plus stitches each time he runs. My goal was to get to 50% done by the end of June. Today is the 29th. Look at his nostrils. And I looked, when you look at the mock-up, this dark purple here, I'm getting ready for an eye. So I need to get going in here. I've got a few confetti stitches here, but like from here down is completely solid. Right now I have stitched 49.49%, which is over 13,000 stitches. It'll be about 13,300 to get it to 50%. So I really am trying not to miss a day here because it adds up quickly. If I go away for a weekend and don't take this with me, that could be 3 days, like missing 600 stitches. So I'm trying not to do that because I would really like to have the ability to put in the last stitch while Andrew is running in Australia. That's my goal. Maybe I should, let's say it's my hope. And no matter how you shake it, I am going to be getting done. And I was pleased to see that right here is the 50% line. So once I fill this in, excuse me, excuse me, gotta love allergies. I can see how high it's going to go. It'll go till about here. I am having a lot of fun doing this. And for me, because I like doing projects and giving them away, it just fits that I'm doing this for a friend whose eyesight won't allow her to do it so that she can give it to her grandson. And as always, my final project is By the Shore by Stitch Is So Beautiful, artwork originally by Kaplan Dorr. This full coverage is 440 by 375 with a lot of colors. It's a full box. And I've only zeroed out one color that was in sky. I have stitched almost 12,000 stitches this month, and I still have tonight that I can stitch. I am now at 110,014 stitches, which is 66.68%. Look at that. So I'm just going to say, oh my goodness, the trees. So I'm looking at this as more than one tree. And I'm going, oh. So sometimes when I'm going, this is so much tree, I'll come down and I'll add some more grass here. Sorry, not grass. Grass would be green as well. This is lake. I've got dark blue in. This will be the shadow of a cabin. Or I'll come down here and do some of the purple flowers. And I must say that while I'm working on that tree, I think of Katie, because she's doing Yggdrasil for Jeremiah. Hello, Jeremiah. Yggdrasil is the tree of life. And her tree is much bigger than this tree. So my heart goes out to you. She's looking forward to getting to the tree because she's right at the moment in the background. There'll be lots of tree, Katie. And thank you, Katie, for sending me the outline for the July Magazine Monthly. That was so helpful. So, super pleased with this. I really took it as a compliment when Kim said that it's like a painting coming to life, because that's what it feels like I'm doing. I'm making a painting come to life. So that's stitched on a 20 count, just plain white Aida that I am gridding myself with a polyester thread that is left over from my mother's thread collection. And I don't sew through the thread because when you do that, sometimes you sew it into place. And you can see that I was using red and orange, so I clip it just as I'm about to get to that, and that way I can stay accurate with my counting. We're going to say I'm accurate with my counting. I'm sure there's a leaf here or there that's not quite right, but let's not look that close. Now, Christmas in July. Am I doing it? Why, yes, I am. I will be stitching Christmas in July. It's just that it's not the only thing. I am going to be continuing my Mudpuppy. I'm going to be continuing my Whip Go. I'm going to be continuing my dragon. So you're still going to see things other than Christmas. But I am excited to start the Nativity Tiny Town with Sarah of Sew Me Sarah. I have a Noel sampler of Satsuma Street to catch up to the Twitchy Stitcher with. I almost have the reindeer from the Year in the Woods 1 into my PC Stitch so that I can stitch that with Lee. We figured a reindeer, we're going to call it Christmas because of Santa's sleigh. And I also have Christmas Gnomes by Waxing Moon Designs that I want to stitch with Laura and Katie for our Gnome Along. Now, I find those ornaments go actually quite quickly. I stitch them on 32 count with one strand of sulky 12 weight. So I'm looking forward to that. So now those are the general plans for my Christmas in July stitches. Please don't expect them all to get done, but they'll get started. And I'm okay with they'll get started. I'm much more comfortable with that than I used to be, aren't I, Lisa? One more shout out. Busy Mom Stitcher, she stitches and quilts. Now, she was working 2 jobs, and one of them was at Joann's. So, needless to say, that job ended, and she's down to 1 job. Well, now that has allowed her more stitching time, and she's going to move to a video every week instead of every other week. She's a lover of full coverage and lovely to listen to. So I hope Busy Mom Stitcher will be somebody that you will check out. In my moment for music, recently Sarah of Sew Me Sarah commented on one of her favorite hymns, being It Is Well. And I think I'm remembering that might be a hymn that was a favorite of the mom of Carlene and Marlene, who are the Sun City Stitchers. So I looked through my books and I found multiple iterations of it as well. Now, I'm just going to show you some of the books that I use. There is a series of books called Alfred's Sacred Performer Collections. So, now, some of them are advanced, as in you will have to practice even if you are quite good at the piano to do them. And some of them are a little bit gentler. This is called Early Intermediate. This is Early Advanced. I'm always saying Cindy Barry is one of my favorite composer arrangers. And another favorite composer arranger is Melody Bobber. So you can look online at Alfred Publishing Company and see that they have a lot of options if you are interested in playing some religious music. They also have a lot of non-religious music of all grades to choose from. So they are a large publishing company. Today what you're going to hear is It Is Well. And it's going to be mixed with Be Still. So Be Still is a melody that was written by Sibelius, who's a composer from Finland. And the way these two pieces are put together, I find them inspirational, and I always had really good response to this particular combination when I played it at a church service. And so it is. We have reached the end of June and the end of another Flosstube. Thank you. Thank you to everyone for being my support, being my friend, and for just generally checking on me if you haven't heard from me in a while. I am so lucky that each of you is part of my life. Please know you are valued, and that if you ever need company while you're stitching, I am just an email away, and that email is always in the description box. So I do hope that while you were watching, you had needle, floss, and fabric in hand, so that as you made something beautiful, you made yourself happy. Thank you. Bye-bye for now.